Hello, this is Alex at Greenman Gaming. For the past couple of weeks we've been playing the closed beta for Mirage Arcane Warfare, and we think we've gotten to grips with the combat system. So I'm here to pass on a few tips on how to play as two of the classes. The first of these is the Vypress, the melee specialist. She could be considered the poster girl for the game. She's on the main loading screen and most of the advertising. The other class I'm going to show you is the Alchemancer, the long-range Mage. These two classes are polar opposites of each other. They play very differently. If you can master these two classes, then you'll have the skills to play as any class in the game. So firstly, the Vypress. She's very quick, and she's very deadly with her blades, but her weakness is that she's got to get in close to use them. She's got a number of special abilities that help her close the distance, but once you're there, you're going to be using the melee combat system. The most straightforward attack is clicking the left mouse button. That will do a side swipe from right to left. If you hold the Alt key before attacking, you'll instead swipe from left to right. It's worth noting that there is friendly fire in this game, so if you do a side swipe while you're in close with your allies, you might be at risk of hurting them. So you can try to avoid that by using the Alt key to attack from a different direction, or by instead doing an overhead attack or a gut stab by using the middle mouse button. Rolling it down will do an overhead, and rolling it up will do a gut stab. These attacks are slower than side swipes though, so use with caution. Now, the most crucial part of the melee combat system is parrying. You can't just hold a block button, like in Street Fighter or For Honor, and automatically deflect all attacks that come from a certain direction. Instead, when you hit the parry button, which is the right mouse button, you'll be briefly protected for about a second. This means you've got to keep a close eye on the enemy's animations to see when they are beginning an attack. That's when you need to hit your parry button to deflect it. If you successfully parry an enemy's attack, you can then hit an attack button to do your own attack more quickly than otherwise. It's known as a riposte. This means that enemies that have been parried are at a slight disadvantage. It's also worth noting that it's not just melee attacks that can be parried. You can also deflect enemy magic projectiles. In fact, you can bounce them straight back at an opponent. Now, a trick that will let you get past enemy parries, you can drag the mouse to speed up or slow down your attacks. If you drag your mouse in the direction that you are attacking, then your swipe will actually go quicker than normal. If on the other hand you drag your mouse away from the direction that you're attacking, then your swipe will go more slowly. This means that you can either get in an attack before the enemy's been able to parry, or you can get in an attack just after the enemy has finished parrying. Another trick that you can use to get past enemy parries is to feint an attack. If you hit the R key just as you're beginning an attack, then it will instead cancel it. This actually works for both melee attacks and various special abilities. Chances are that the enemy will see you start your animation and begin their parry. This means that they'll be left defenseless when you actually begin your real attack. So that covers the basics of the melee combat system. Those same tips will be useful for most of the classes, but they're especially important for the Vypress, given how focused she is on melee. Now, when it comes to her special abilities, the Q key will give you either the dash attack or the shadow kick. The shadow kick will cause you to slide towards an enemy and then do a slow swiping kick. Dash will cause you to leap into the air and then do an overhead attack. The secondary ability on the E key will either be the Chakram or the Blade Whip. The Blade Whip while hitting the E key will charge up your blades so that they glow with energy, and then hitting the melee key will cause these energy discs to fly out of your blade. Now you'll notice there, just used the Pounce ability on the F key to leap up onto that ledge. The other ability that you can get on the F key is the phase ability. The description's a little misleading on that one because it sounds like it's an ability that makes you invulnerable. What it actually does is teleport you forward a short distance, and while you are teleporting, you can pass straight through enemies and projectiles. However, the period of invulnerability only lasts for a fraction of a second. So that covers the Vypress's standard attacks and special abilities. With that knowledge, you should be dismembering people's heads and limbs in no time. Now onto the Alchemancer, the long-range specialist. When you click with the left mouse button, the Alchemancer doesn't do a side swipe with the blade, instead he sends out a fireball. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it means you can whittle down enemy health from long range. Also, when he parries, instead of parrying with a sword, he sets up a brief energy barrier. Still works the same as a normal parry though. It's important to note that the Alchemancer's fireballs can be deflected by enemy parries. Now, if you prefer to get up close and personal, you can actually change your weapon loadout and swap your fireballs for an elemental sword. This means you can do the same kind of melee combat as all of the other characters. However, I personally don't feel that that's a good trade-off, given that the Alchemancer is very soft and squishy. You want to keep him at a distance and pelt the enemy with fireballs, rather than get him close with characters that have significantly more health. It's worth noting that even when you're using the fireball, you can still take part in melee combat by using the middle mouse wheel to do overhead and stab attacks. The Alchemancer will actually summon an elemental sword out of thin air just to do those attacks. Back to the fireball, though it does low damage, you can actually change the course of the projectile by dragging the mouse. This ability to guide your energy bolts onto enemies reminds me quite a bit of Magic Missile from Dungeons & Dragons. It means that you can get around obstacles or friendly players are in the way. Or, if an enemy is running off in the distance, you can compensate for their movement. Now, the standard movement ability on the F key is to teleport in the direction of your crosshair. However, you can instead swap it out for this levitation ability, which allows you to float around the map and drop fireballs on enemy heads. While floating around though, you are quite vulnerable to any enemies that have projectiles. They can knock you out of the sky. If you're dealing with enemies that are mostly melee focused, you can rain down death from above with impunity. Now, what I just used there was a piercing shot on the Q key. It's pretty effective and can go through multiple enemies. Alternatively, you can swap it out for this Phoenix attack. It's pretty tricky to use though, so when you first hit the Q key, it will send out an egg, and you then need to press and hold the Q key to then release the Phoenix and guide it where you want it to go. So it's not much of a fire and forget weapon, it's quite involved using it. I found that using the piercing shots was a lot more straightforward. You can see here doing a bit more levitating while sending out fireballs, and then trying out the Barrage attack, which is an option that replaces the Chaos Orb on the E key. There I am trying to use Phoenix again and failing, while that Alchemancer actually succeeds in using Phoenix. I then use Barrage to do a bit of area denial. Now the Chaos Orb doesn't have quite the same area denial ability. Basically you chuck a great big bomb, causes a nice explosion on impact. The Barrage, however, causes an area of damage over time. Both are quite useful, and I've still not decided which I prefer. You can see us all here fighting over this control point. Now this enemy is going to put up an Iron Guard shield. Now, projectiles won't go through that, so time to get in there and do a bit of melee. There we are, with an overhead mouse wheel attack. Used a teleport to gain a bit of distance in order to be able to safely switch back to using guided fireballs. Teleporting can be used to get both in and out of combat. Having a bit of a fireball fight there with another Alchemancer. That enemy just parried one of the fireballs. Now you might have noticed that when playing as the Vypress and the Alchemancer, that it's mostly been in the third person perspective. You can switch between first person and third person by pressing the P key. We've found that playing in third person gives quite a bit more situational awareness, as you can see to the sides and behind you, and not be surprised quite so easily. There aren't any real advantages to playing in first person perspective, except that you get to see some nice weapon view models. Now, this is still a closed beta, so there may be some changes to characters' abilities and balances and so on. But the game is already, well, a lot of fun to play, and haven't noticed any real balance issues, other than Phoenix being tricky to control. Ah, damn iron shield in the way there. Just need to charge up this glyph. So yeah, if you would like to get in on the beta and start playing the game early before its release, you can pre-order from Green Man Gaming, and that will immediately get you a beta key. Okay, Chaos Orb and a piercing shot. You can use a teleport to get in close. And there we are, victory. Everything you need to play as the Alchemancer. Thanks for watching, and do join us next time.